At the beginning of his performances, Beethoven used to strike the keys with the palm of his hand or run his fingers in a quick glissando over the piano. He loved good-natured nonsense, and his theatrics in the court salon only enhanced his standing with the aristocrats of Vienna, whose favorite pastime was music. Some of them were even themselves excellent performers. And whenever a promising new talent appeared on the musical horizon, a great competition ensued over who would become his patron. You see, many musicians were even employed by nobility on a permanent basis, both to compose and to perform. For instance, the celebrated Haydn. In Beethoven's time, aristocrats regarded the musicians they employed as members of a household. In old ledgers, their pay was lumped together with that of other domestic staff. But a life of subservience was not for Beethoven. He once walked out of a party because he was not seated at his host's table. The host was, of course, a nobleman. He declared to another princeling, with all due respect, your honor, I do not choose to observe the rules and regulations of your court. For some in society, Beethoven's behavior was boorish. For more enlightened natures, it was evidence of his democratic spirit, inspired by the events of the French Revolution in 1789. At this stage, his compositions still had their roots in tradition, but even so, they manifested his impatience with accepted ways. Right and wrong? Who is there to decide what is allowed and what is forbidden? At the age of 30, Beethoven was a celebrity as a pianist and as a composer. He was socially accepted, financially solvent. He was even the owner of a horse. At the beginning of the 19th century, public concerts were rare, and when they did take place, they were mostly devoted to charity, often to benefit the performer himself. Naturally, the artist pulled out all the stops on such rare occasions, and in 1800, Beethoven held his first concert of this sort. Not only did he conduct works by Mozart and Haydn, as well as his own first symphony, he also introduced his new septet, played a piano concerto of his, and improvised on the piano quite a full evening. And he even sold the tickets himself. But as most concert activities still took place in the elegant homes of Vienna's aristocracy, social and musical life were inseparable. And Beethoven enjoyed both. Imagine then his feelings of horror when, having found success, he began to lose his hearing. "Oh, you men who think that I am malevolent," he wrote, "stubborn or misanthropic, how greatly do you wrong me. How can I possibly admit an infirmity in the one sense which ought to be more perfect in me than in others, a sense which I once possessed, in the highest perfection? My misfortune is doubly painful to me because I am bound to be misunderstood. For me, there can be no relaxation in the company of my fellow men, no refined conversation, no mutual exchanges of ideas. I must live almost alone, like one who has been banished. Any more, and I would have ended my life. Only my art held me back.